Okay, now we're going to talk about the water tank or water. So with a tiny house, there's a number of ways to do the water. If you're in town and it's going in the backyard of someone's house, it's very simple. You simply run a garden hose from a tap that's in the backyard and you click it in to the connection point that we supply on the tiny house. Very, very simple. If you're looking for something more permanent, there's something called a blue line. It's cheap plumbing pipe that you can buy at the plumbing wholesaler or even at Bunnings or one of those type stores, Mitre 10. And you can run your own connection point through a hard connection of the water. That's if you've got mains water. Or if you're on a rural property and you've got large water tanks, you can run another line off those water tanks from the main house, the main pump, simply click it into the tiny house and away you go. In this case, today we're looking at a tiny house that's sort of off-grid. This is in a paddock. It's nowhere near anything, and we've had to supply a 10,000 litre water tank. Now you can do different size water tanks. They range from as little as 1,000 all the way up to 1,000,000 litres, which is completely ridiculous for this case. As far as the tiny house goes, my highest recommendation is you ring the local water carter truck, which is someone who delivers water, and you ask them what's the size of that water carter truck. And if they say it's 10,000 litres, you should buy a 10,000 litre water tank, because they're not going to give you a half load. They're just going to fill the tank, okay? So you may even consider getting one slightly larger, because it's rare that you take it right to empty. So maybe a 12,000 or 12,500 litre tank or 15,000. That's more than enough. You're going to have to assume you're going to get this tank filled up with a water carter. You cannot fill the tank through the roof space that is on a tiny house. It's too small. The roof of a tiny house, it's great to connect it, which this client has done. We've got a gutter system, and you'll see in the background where it's connecting to the water tank. It's great to top it up. The reality is, if you worked out the calculation of the roof area on this tiny house and you had to fill that tank to live here permanently, it would be raining every day. It would be raining a lot every day. It's just not feasible. So just make sure you understand you've got to get a water tank that suits a water carter truck. That's my highest recommendation. But ultimately, it's your house. You can do whatever you like. I would go this one. This is 10,000 litres. It looks great. In this case, we've also connected the tiny house to it using a normal house gutter system. Now that is another question that people ask a lot. Can I connect the tiny house gutter system to a water tank? And the answer is yes. You certainly can, but it's important to know that we cannot use a regular gutter that you would get in a house on a tiny house. So we've developed our own gutter system, and I've got a piece here, a little offcut from the workshop, and you'll see that it's very small. This is about, say, 20 mil wide, and it also forms part of our waterproofing system up in the gutter. So they call it, say, a Z flashing or something like that. So that gets installed, and ultimately this gutter is designed simply to stop drips of dirty water from your roof coming down the side face of your tiny house. Keeps it nice and clean, looks much sharper. That is very difficult to connect a downpipe to. There are ways to do it. You can get what's called a rain head, and it's at, say, at Bunnings or one of the other suppliers, Mitre 10. They're about $35 each. They sit underneath, it's got a leaf guard on it, and you can connect that. It's not the best system, and so some people choose to have what we install is a two-part gutter system where the front face of this screws off, and I've got a little downpipe bracket here for a regular house. It actually comes with a tab that normally is there, but you break that off. Once this is installed on site, this simply slides up under behind it like that. Okay. So this front face removes. We just simply unscrew it on our new system. This is for someone who doesn't want, this gutter here is for someone who doesn't want the gutter system, but we do this in two parts. So you're gonna have to imagine this front face gets pulled off. This goes up underneath, and then you can simply install your gutter system over the top of that. Then you've got normal house gutter, and you'll see up on the video on the house here, you'll see that gutter system's been installed. Normal house quad gutter, you run a 90 mil downpipe off it, and then straight into the water tank. So, just to summarise, if you're getting water, you can either plug it in through mains water, if you have access to that. If you don't have access to it, get yourself a water tank, assume you're going to fill it up with a water cutter truck. If you want to top up the tank with your house water, install a regular quad gutter to it or install a rain head. So there's lots of ways to do it, and the choice is yours on which way you're going to do it. Only you'll know based on the climate of where you are. Some places it rains a lot more than others. If you're out west and it doesn't rain much at all, don't worry about the gutter system and simply just have the tiny house filled up with a water cutter truck. That's my advice to you, and hopefully that answers a lot of your questions about water.